so we're not going to put ourselves to sleep. Ooh. So just a quick story. I actually tried to get somebody else to come speak to you guys tonight. Not Black Aaron. That's the last guy that was here. We made some jokes. If you weren't here, it's hard to explain that, but my wife made some comments. Anyway, you'll get to hear from Jess at the end of tonight's study. I'm really looking forward to that. Jess, could you raise your hand? Hi. A little higher? Higher. There we go. She's proud to be married to me. You can tell by how high she raised her hand. But I didn't call Black Aaron. I called White Aaron from Machias. He lives in a fishing community. He's been a pastor down there and a friend to me for years. And when I called him, I said, hey, would you pray about coming and teaching? And he said, yeah. And then he called me back like the next day. He said, I'm not coming. And he said, you should do it. And I said, oh, no, man, we're trying to get people, like that can come and just really powerfully speak. And, And he said, no, you should do it. You should share the word. This is your town. Take the opportunity. And so, anyway, tonight's my night, I guess. And next time, we're going to do another one of these in the summer. If you haven't noticed, we've done a fall, and then we did a winter, and then today is spring, and then we're going to do one in the summer. So you just pay attention. We try to pick a date that works for as many people as we can, but it always doesn't work for somebody. But here's kind of my vision, that the churches in this area where people love Jesus and they know what he did for them would gather, especially the young people together. They would encourage each other. They would sit under God's word and they would worship their guts out. That's kind of my vision, where we can build relationships between different churches. Many of you guys know each other. I love getting to see what else God is doing here in this area. So that's why we're here. Thank you for coming tonight. Would you open your Bibles to Mark chapter 4? Some of you are going to know this passage like the back of your hand. And others, it's going to be maybe the first time you've ever heard this story or ever really thought deeply about it. Mark chapter 4, verse 35. I wanted to teach actually all the way really through chapter 5, but some of you went to an all-nighter last night. And I don't think you have the bandwidth to handle that long of a study. And I tend to go longer than I want to. But I think we can make this short and sweet. God wants to speak to you. Let's give attention to his word. So Mark chapter 4, verse 35. To give you some context, Jesus is in the middle of his ministry, 3 years of his life. He was a little younger than me. I'm almost 40. He was 30-something. When he started accumulating disciples and going around teaching people about the kingdom of God and doing miracles and signs that proved that he was God in the flesh and all of that. And this is along the way. He had just taught all day, explaining things in parables, and then his disciples would come and say, hey, what the heck did you just mean? Like, we don't get it. And he would tell them what he meant. So you can imagine, I get tired after speaking for an hour. I really do. I crash. Sometimes Sunday afternoons, I just conk out on the, my wife gets mad because naps, you're not supposed to get naps when you're a dad, I guess. So, but I sometimes will fall asleep on the couch. It really, it can be exhausting. You're thinking, you're planning, you're trying to convey something. Jesus, he taught all day, and he was tired. And on the same day, verse 35, when evening had come, remember that evening, right? Nighttime. Never had thought of that before. When it had come, in regards to the story, he said to his 12 disciples, he said, let us cross over to the other side, not of the street, but of the Sea of Galilee. I've been on the Sea of Galilee. I've been on a boat on that sea. It's a really, really big lake. It's a couple miles across. And he tells them as the day is coming to a conclusion, he's exhausted. He says, hey, we're going to go to the other side. We're going to go right now. And that would trouble me because I don't go out on bodies of water at night in boats. That's just not my thing. But some of the guys here are what? What did they do for a living? They were Fishermen, right? So no big deal. They fished at night. They'd go across at night. And so Jesus had said, hey, we're going over to the other side. He didn't tell them why. That's very important. He just said, hey, we're going over to the other side. And they said, oh, okay, I guess he's got a plan. We were going to do something over there. I wonder what. They went over to the other side. Now, when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was. He was exhausted, guys. He was exhausted. We're going to see evidence of that. But notice it says, when they had left the multitude. This room is full right now. It's awesome. I love it, you know. Probably next time we'll need to plan and have a few more seats. I like that. But Jesus left a great number of people. Why? We're going to find out. We don't know yet from what we've read. But he left the multitudes. We're going to find out that he's going across the Sea of Galilee in the middle of the night for one dude. You know, and I know some of you biblical scholars, you're like, well, there's actually two. Well, Mark focuses on just one. And I'm going to focus on just one. He's a crazy, naked, demon-possessed dude that lives in the tomb and cuts himself and cries out day and night. And people have tried to chain him up, but they can't stop this guy. So they just back off and let him spend his life isolated, alone, tormented. But we don't know that yet. It hasn't talked about that yet, but that's where Jesus is going. His disciples didn't know. All they see is all the people behind him, and they're like, hey, all the people are back there. Why are we going across? And you can imagine Jesus saying, you'll see. It's worth it. Something worth it to me on the other side. And so, before they ever got there, other little boats were also with him, and all of a sudden a great windstorm arose. You guys know this storm that Jesus is going to calm, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. Where's Jesus? But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. I don't know. It's not like he brought a pillow. Why did he bring a pillow? Come on, guys. You got this. Why would you bring a pillow in the boat? To take a nap. It's just that simple. He was exhausted. He brought his favorite pillow, right? It's kind of a weird Jesus picture in your mind now, right? You know, had some embroidery on it, and he lays it down, and boy, he's out. The disciples, this is such an interesting picture. The disciples are freaking out because of this storm. They're like, we're going to die. We're perishing, right? Jesus is totally calm, totally asleep, fast asleep, just peaceful as peaceful could be. He's there, and they wake him up, and they say, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Oh boy, they're concerned, right? How are they going to get through this storm? What did Jesus say? What did he say in the beginning that they should have held on to? We're going to cross the Sea of Galilee. We're going over to the other side. It was simple, but they missed it. They missed simple. He said, we're going across the sea, and then he fell asleep. The storm came, and they started freaking out. They missed the simple thing that he said. He said, we're going over to the other side. We're going to make it. But they freaked out along the way. Now, notice who are they concerned with? They're concerned for themselves. They are perishing. Oh no, we're going to die. It's interesting, and they don't know all of what's going to happen that night. But across the Sea of Galilee, there already is someone who's dying, who truly is perishing. His life is full of horrors, and they get to be with the Messiah, but this man is all alone, living in tombs. He's lost his family. He's lost everything. That's what a lack of faith will do. You don't remember what Jesus said. We're going to make it to the other side, guys. And when the storms come, you freak out. Let me tell you something. Jesus is the master of every situation. Throw out a situation that he can't handle, please. Can he handle death? Can he handle sinners? Can he handle people with physical problems? Can he handle people with special needs? Can he handle our anger? Can he handle our shame? Can he handle it all? Yes. He is the master of every situation. But if he's not the master of every situation in your life, guess what? You can be mastered by every situation. And the storms will come and they will tear you to pieces. You don't have a rock to stand on. He wakes up. They're crying. You don't care about us. We're perishing. He could sleep through a storm. Because you want to know something? This isn't the storm that's coming to Jesus' life. What's the true storm? What's the true test of who he is? It's right there, isn't it? It's the cross. Everything pales in comparison to that. That was a storm for him. And he went forward and he took it anyway. He laid his life down. He said, no one takes it from me. And if I lay my life down, I'm going to take it back up again. He's there sleeping. They wake him up. Then, verse 39. Boy, I'm thirsty. 39, they arose. Then he arose and he rebuked, listen to this, the wind. Have you ever tried that? Wind, stop, right? Please, I'm begging you. He rebuked the wind. Man, you ever get thirsty during public speaking? That's me tonight. So thirsty. Okay. Then he arose and he rebuked the wind and he said to the sea, peace, be still. And the wind ceased. It didn't take 30 minutes to die down. You wondered, was that him or did the forecaster predict that, No. It just ceased. And there was a great calm. And a friend that used to row, those little tiny skinny boats and they get in, they row in the Olympics? The boat is called a scull, actually. It's spelled differently than a human skull. But you get in there and it's when the water is like glass. You can row really well. I mean, you can just make great time because there's no resistance from waves lapping against your boat. And that's what happened here. He spoke, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, why are you so fearful? Why are you so fearful? What would you say? Because of the storm, right? Why are you so fearful? See, when storms come, remember this, please. You need to look back to what God said. The storm's going to come. It's going to look all crazy. But what did he say? What did he call you to? What did he tell you? You're like, well, he doesn't speak to me audibly. I don't have Jesus in my boat. You remember there's 2 stories in the Bible about a storm on the water, right? You guys know that, right? One, Jesus is in the boat. What about the next time? He ain't in the boat the next time. He's out on the mountain overlooking the Sea of Galilee, and you know what he's doing? He's watching them. And he was praying for them. And he actually, you can call him sick and sadistic, but he was letting them try to get across by themselves. And what was it, like the 4th watch of the night, like the middle of the dark 0:30, right? He goes crossing the water, and it actually says in one of the Gospels, he was walking as if to pass them by. Like, hey, you guys good? You good, right? All right, I'm going over to the other side. Because I told you to go to the other side, so you'll always make it to the other side. What God says you can count on. You can build a whole life on what he says. Where do you find what he says? Because he's not walking around flesh and blood anymore, is he? You find it right here. Right here. You can build your life on what he says, guys. And so he rebukes his disciples. I mean, we might feel like he's a little harsh, but he's teaching them, hey, if I'm here, I'm here. If I'm not here, I'm still here. And if I'm not here someday and I'm not on the mountain, you'll have my word, guys. And you can build a life on that. What I say, I will do every time. Not a word that God speaks will ever fail. It won't pass away. We'll get old. We'll get wrinkly. We'll fade. We'll fail. God's word will never fail. It will always accomplish what he wants it to accomplish. He says, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? He doesn't say a little bit. He just says, you have no faith. He's like, I'm just going to be honest, zero faith, guys. Come on, trust what I say. We're going to the other side. We're going. So at this point, they're like, okay, we've seen this. Well, I'll read a little further. And they feared exceedingly. They were amazed. And they said to one another, who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him? So then they came to the other side of the sea, just like he said, right? To the country of the Gadarenes. Now they were headed as Jewish men into an area that wasn't all that friendly to Jewish men. They were headed from the fishing towns on the Jewish side of the Sea of Galilee across to an area that's called the Decapolis. It's made up of different towns, 10 cities, Decapolis, right? Deca, 10, right? You learned something tonight. The Decapolis was where a lot of people that didn't believe the same things lived. A lot of people worshiped other gods. A lot of people did everything differently there. And they're going over, remember what time it is? Can somebody tell me? If you get in a boat in the evening and you sail across a couple-mile lake, you're going to get to the other side when? Some people believe the morning. It's either the morning or, I think the night's long enough, I think they could have actually made it in the middle of the night. What the heck are they doing? Crossing the Sea of Galilee in the middle of the night. What could be so important? What's Jesus' plan? Why did the storm come? Where did the storm even come from? You guys think God sent it? Some people would. They say, well, God's in charge of the weather. Well, there's a great adversary, a great enemy to God. He's not greater than God. But I think we could maybe, I'm suggesting this, maybe the storm came because Jesus and his disciples, there were forces, evil forces at work that wanted to prevent him from getting where? To the other side. Why? Because there was somebody on the other side that needed to meet Jesus. They needed to meet him. He left the crowds for the one. He left all the people and all the excitement and all the comforts of what he knew to go across the sea for one. Guys, don't miss this. You are that one. We're going to read this and you're going to be like, well, I'm not out of my mind and I'm not without clothes and I'm not like this guy. Oh, yes, you are. And I was too. We are all that one. That he crossed, he came from heaven to earth to show the way, didn't he? He came he didn't have to. He stooped so low to come and show up in your life. And you know what? If you turn him down, I did as a teen, I said, nope, 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 I don't want you. Get away. I want to do my own thing. I want to live the way I want to. He'll keep coming. He'll keep showing up, middle of the day, middle of the night, middle of the morning, right? He'll work hard to come into your life. They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes, and when Jesus had come out of the boat, I like that detail. We can't draw too much from it, but it seems like he's the first one out. The others are like, where are we? Are we on the Gentile side? You know, they were just afraid of the storm. Now they're afraid of whoever's going to meet them in the middle of the night or early morning or whenever it was. Maybe they'd heard some stories. Maybe on a really quiet day, they'd heard some moaning or screaming or crying that carried across the water. You know how when somebody's in a canoe or something and you say, hey, they can hear well, not like that. They would hear, but if you say, hey, it's time for lunch, they're like, hey, it's time for lunch. It's like it goes across the water. Maybe they'd heard this guy. Maybe some nights when Peter and James and Andrew and John had been out fishing, they'd heard this dude moaning on the other side of the sea. Well, we'll meet him here. Jesus steps out of the boat, and immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. Immediately there met him. You know, I don't know. I'm not saying watch like zombie movies because I actually really don't watch horror movies, period. But I did watch World War Z, and you know the way that zombies run like crazy fast, and they're just like, you're like, oh no, a zombie's breaking in, and then like 1/10 of a second later, they're on top of you, like chewing your arm off. Ah! But fortunately, you've got newspaper on your arm, so you're good. Anybody seen that movie? All right, don't watch that movie. Yeah, World War Z. Yeah, now you're paying attention. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I was just kidding. Yeah, I know. For you, I've seen a couple of you swimming and like, Anyway, thank you. So it says he got out of the boat and immediately, like, dude, right in his face. If it's nighttime, that's terrifying, right? You're the other disciples. You're like, can we go back, right? I don't want to get out. Let's stay in the boat, right? Immediately, there met him, notice, out of the tombs, a man with an unclean spirit. Now, a lot of people say a lot of different things about unclean spirits and demons, but I know this. They're real. There is an evil that you cannot explain in this world. It's even deeper than just human beings and what they can invent. People can be so wicked, but there is an evil that's beyond that. Something sinister that's feeding the minds and the hearts of people that have rejected God into increasing and increasing ungodliness. This world is circling the toilet, right? If you watch the news, if you just have your ears open to what's happening in life, you don't have to go through much life to see that this world is corrupt and it's sinking fast. There's something behind all that. It's more than just rotten man. There's something deeper. And something deeper has worked its way into this man's life. He didn't come from his house, guys. He didn't come down the street and say, "Yo, Jesus, what's up, man?" He came from where? The tombs. This dude lived in caves. Somewhere in the story, and we've got to think about this part, this was a person. I know he's crazy. We're going to find out he's naked. That's weird, right? We know that he's like doing all this weird stuff, but this is a person. Imagine if it was your uncle or your dad or your brother or your son, your friend. This guy he wasn't born in a tomb. He was born into a family. He had a mom. There were people that loved him. But along the way, and we're not told his whole story, something changed. The Bible says this clearly, and I hope this kind of scares you. It says that a man without self-control is like a city without walls. If you don't know God, you are like a city in ancient times with no protective wall around you. Anything can come at any time and mess with your heart, mess with your mind. You are very, very vulnerable. Sometimes it serves Satan, fallen, cherubim, we can get into all that, who Satan is, right? Sometimes it serves his purposes to do stuff like this. We'll see this guy looks crazy. Oh my gosh, Satan's messing with him really bad. But other times it serves Satan's purposes to just keep people away from Jesus. And we'll see at the end of this story, there's a whole lot of villagers who come out because they see Jesus interact with this guy and change him. And all of those villagers, they stay away from Jesus, and that's part of Satan's plan for their life. Just keep them away from him. We'll see that in a little bit. He works in different ways, and how this man kind of got exposed to being filled with an unclean spirit, it's hard to say. But I know this, when he was in kindergarten, this now man, and his teacher said, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" He didn't say, "I want to be naked, running around in tombs, screaming my heads off and cutting my arms till they bleed." He didn't say that, did he? I know that's funny, but when you see somebody struggling with addiction, they probably weren't a 6-year-old thinking, "When I grow up, I want to struggle with alcohol," right? When I grow up, I want to be homeless. I want to be whatever. That's not how people think, is it? But nonetheless, there's something working in this guy's life against him. Jesus said in John 10:10, he said, "The thief," help me out, somebody, "the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus said, I have come to give life and to give life that's abundant." The thief has come to kill, steal, and destroy. There's something worse than physical death, But let's just look at the idea for a second that Satan is a predator. Satan works this way. He tells you the people that you should trust in life, like your parents or your pastor or your youth leader or somebody that you know knows God and loves you. He tells them you can't trust them. You should trust him instead. And he works really hard to move you away from all the people that can help you, to get you isolated, so then he can destroy you. He rips you away from the people that God put in your life and gets you with a totally different other group of people, and suddenly you're all vulnerable, and then he comes in and he tears you up. Has anybody ever experienced that? And I notice some of the leaders are like, yes, we have. And you guys will experience that too. He is working hard to pull you away from Jesus. Just like a predator, in human terms, would work hard to get you away from your parents, get you out of your home, get you away from those that love you. It's sinister, but that's who Satan is. We don't know what happened to this guy, but all of a sudden we meet him. And he meets Jesus. He sprints over to the boat. Immediately, he's there, coming out of the tombs, a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs. That's where he lived. Notice this, and no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains. Check this out. Does the world care about this guy? Nope. What did they try to do? Lock him up. Lock him up. That's their solution. And did it work? Nope. The world doesn't care about this guy. They let him go. Go out and be in the tombs. All right, we'll just stay out of the tombs. You just stay over there, we'll stay over here, and we'll do life. And, I'm sure they hardly ever thought about him. They could hear him sometimes at night, but that's it. Don't go over there. Leave that guy alone. Did the world have what he needed to be set free? Nope. All they had was ropes and chains to tie him up tighter. Can the world help you overcome spiritual darkness when they don't even believe spiritual darkness is real? They can't. Only Jesus can. He shows up out of nowhere. He crosses the sea to get to this guy. He's going, leaving the multitude for just the one. He comes over. He finds this guy that's been dwelling in the tombs. The only thing people have tried to do for him is tie him up and chain him up and bound him with shackles and chains. I want to tell you something. This is, I don't know, it just popped into my mind. I was sharing this story with somebody yesterday, but I used to work in juvenile corrections, so hopefully none of you have ever been to prison. But I got to work with youth in Maine that had and were incarcerated and kept there for a long period of time. And I remember, you'd learn the backstories of some of these kids, and it crushed you. About 95% of them didn't have a father figure in their life. I remember one kid in particular, I can't tell you his name or really anything about him. I remember asking another staff, I said, what's his problem? He's always causing problems. What's his problem? And they said, he was raised in a cage. I was like, what? He said, no, literally. He was raised in a cage. And I'm like, okay. I guess that kind of, at least there's a measure of compassion now, Still a punk, but man, can't imagine. Can you imagine being this guy and knowing that your life has been stolen, swallowed? Your identity is pretty much gone. When you speak, it's not even you. Somebody else speaks for you. It's like you're trapped, you're stuck. How do you escape? Well, this guy had pulled apart the chains and the shackles he had broken in pieces. Reading a little further, neither could anyone tame him. Maybe a few had tried. Maybe his family, maybe his wife, maybe his kids had shown up. They begged him. But they weren't stronger than what was in him. And always, night and day, what a picture. He was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. There's 2 times in the Bible where it talks about people cutting themselves. Anybody in here tell me? This is one. Do you remember the other? Just raise your hand. Arnold. Elijah, right? prophets of Baal, you know why they cut themselves? Because they wanted their God, who wasn't real, to care about them. They're like, if we cut ourselves, this God will look down, he'll hear our prayers. You know what's crazy? If you look back through human history, people have been doing that for thousands of years, cutting themselves or cutting other people, hurting other people to try to get God to care. And it's like, it's weird because it's actually close to the truth. If you think about it, God, he doesn't want us to suffer for our sins. So he sent his son who died in our place, and he bled for us. Do you see it? Right? He's not looking for human blood to cover man's sin because he was going to cover it with his own blood. What a God we serve. It's so different from every other man-made religion. This guy is cutting himself. He's crying out day and night, always. And when, verse 6, he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and he worshiped him. Now, I don't think it was like the worship that we just had. I think he bowed down because these demons, all of them in this man, knew he was their master. He was in authority. He was in charge. No doubt about it. In some ways, they know more than most people. And he cried out with a loud voice, and he said, I don't know, I can't do voices very well, but then I think, how could I do a demon voice? I have no idea. So I'm just going to read it. What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Right? You're like, ah! The other disciples, I believe they're still in the boat, by the way. I mean, it doesn't say that they ever got out. What have I to do with you, Jesus? What does this demon know? Knows his name. Knows who he is. The demon's not like, yo, I don't believe in you, so, I mean, right? This demon knows exactly who's in charge and who he's talking to, and Jesus is titled the Son of the Most High God. And then the demon begs. He says, I implore you, I beg you, by God, that you do not torment me. He knows that eventually he will be judged and tormented. And what place did God prepare for Satan and his angels, the fallen angels? Again, somebody can just tell me. Hell. You're all over the answers tonight. Good job, Gemma. And so, he says, I beg you by God that you do not torment me. Now, we might be tempted to think there's just one demon in this dude, but we'll read a little further and we'll find out it's a whole lot worse than that. For Jesus had said to him, and he would say, it kind of reads interesting in Mark, come out of the man, unclean spirit. He would do that at the end. And then he asked him, what is your name? Well, who's he talking to? Right? This dude, we never hear the man's name, probably so each of us can read ourselves into this story. We can be the person that's trapped and stuck, and Jesus crosses the sea for us. But we never hear the man's name. What we hear is the demon's name. He says, my name is Legion, which was a large group of Roman soldiers, like thousands, for we are many. And Jesus said, come out of him. You know, if you mess with evil, what you'll find is that what God made you to be, all of the good that he wanted to make, he created you for good works. All the good things that he made you for will get swallowed up in that identity that God created to give you. You're just so precious in his sight. He knit you together in your mom's womb. All of that stuff, one of a kind, extraordinary to him, precious. Your identity will start to crumble and disappear until you settle for something you were never made to be. This man, he doesn't say, oh, I'm Steve, right? Steve Johnson, right? I used to live No, he says, anybody know a Steve Johnson? Anybody named Steve Johnson? Right? No? Okay. So he doesn't say that. Instead, the evil that's in him speaks for him. It's like he's not even there. He's so subjugated, like under the foot of these many demons. My name is Legion, for we are many. Jesus said, get out. Get out. Come out of him. And he answered, verse 10, the demons, he begged him earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. So this is very interesting. The demons beg Jesus, they say, don't send us really far. We'll talk about that in a minute. Why don't they want to go like back to hell? I don't know. Like go to, Alaska. Like, why don't they want to go very far? We'll talk about it. Keep paying attention. You'll have an answer in just a moment. Now, a large herd of swine. What are swine? Pigs. This is a fun fact about me. Some of my closest friends know that I had Lyme disease a few years ago, and I have a twitch. And it only happens when I'm really comfortable and really chill, never during public speaking, but I snort like a pig. That's my twitch. It's a great twitch to have. Really is unsettling, You're sitting on a bus, you're sitting on a plane, or you're sitting in a Bible study, or it's a prayer meeting, and somebody says, Dear Jesus, help Steve Johnson, whoever that is. Help Steve Johnson. And then I go, right? And they say, is that an amen or what? Like, I wish it didn't happen, but it just does. People have asked me if I fake it. My wife knows, where'd she go? She's already she's embarrassed. She left, right? She's hiding. My wife hears me do it every morning when I wake up. It's like it's like clearing my throat. It's so annoying. I have to get my snorts out. Okay. Some of you snort when you laugh, and you can relate. Get laughing real hard. I think I just heard one. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. So notice this. It's very interesting. So all the demons, they begged him, saying, send us to the swine that we may enter them. You said what? That's exactly what I think. Guys, help me with this. Why in the world do these demons who hate people, they hate what God has made, they want to destroy man, why do they want to go into the pigs? Why didn't they say, yo, Jesus, let us go? They'd probably be like, oh, Jesus, let us go into, I don't know, these other people. Let us go into these other people, right? That's what I would expect. Why would they go into pigs? And then, furthermore, why would Jesus let them? Like, what's up with Jesus that he's letting these demons have a say at all about where they go? Why doesn't he say, hey, you said don't torment me before the time, but guess what? It's time, right? And torments them, right? Destroys them. Why doesn't he do that? I mean, he calmed the storm, didn't he? Couldn't he take care of a couple thousand demons? Oh, yeah, he could. But he's going to say yes to what they ask him. And he's going to let the demons go into this large herd of a couple thousand swine, pigs. And we're going to see the demons know and have a plan for why they want to go into these pigs. We'll see how that pans out in just a second. And Jesus is going to let them go into the pigs because it's going to work out this way. Hold that thought. Let's read a little bit more. It'll become more clear. They said, send us into the swine that we may enter them. And at once, Jesus gave them permission. He said, yes. Then the unclean spirits went out and they entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And has anybody ever raised pigs? Dude, pigs are crazy. Pigs are crazy. Here's my couple pig stories. I saw one peeing, and it's not just a little bit of pee. It's so much pee. It's like somebody turned on a water faucet. And then another one came and was like, huh. And drank it, just like it was a water fountain. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never want to eat bacon again. But then I did again tonight because it's so good. Anyway, another time, there was a litter of piglets born. And I went out, and I dumped the slop bucket, and it got on the electric fence. And then one of the little piglets was like, huh. And it came over, and it put its mouth right on the electric fence, and got lit up really bad. And it backed up, it tottered, and then it fell. And all the other piglets were like, oh no. And they ran over, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. They're like trying to wake him up. They're checking on him. Oh, wait, no. Oh, get away, pigs. They started eating him immediately. You know, their brother, hey, Steve, he fell over. Get him, right? It's crazy. Pigs are insane. I don't know why I told you any of that. Send us to the swine that we may enter. Now we're going backwards. At once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and they entered the swine. There were about 2,000, so that's a lot of pigs. I'm just saying, what's a pig worth, Andrew? What's a pig worth today? A couple $100. So 2,000, let's just say $100. 2,000 times 100. $200,000. That's like, back then, that was like a couple houses. You know, now it's not. But back then, I mean, that was something. This was someone's whole livelihood. Maybe a bunch of people's whole livelihood. This was big money. So 2,000 pigs, and then the herd, all of a sudden, there's only one place all around the Sea of Galilee where this is even possible. They all went, woohoo, and ran off a cliff and did little piggy dives, pig pile. They dove into the water, and they all drowned themselves. And now, the first time I ever read that, I was like, that worked out. Jesus is like, hey, yeah, go in the pigs, and then, woo, they're gone, you know, like, he knew that they would drown. I mean, that's crazy, but I think there's more to it than that. They all drowned in the sea. So those who fed the swine, the shepherds, pig shepherds, I don't know what they're, the pig shepherds fled, and they went to the cities. They told it in the city and in the country. They told everybody what they saw. You know, this guy came, it was the middle of the night, he came, he got 12 guys in the boat, he stepped out, all of a sudden, the demoniac, you know, the guy that we tried to tame and like chain up and stuff, he was a mess, and he wasn't wearing clothes, and he came, and he got right in his face, and then he said, hey, get out of him, what's your name, you know, and all this stuff happened, and then all of a sudden, the pigs, all of the pigs, 2,000 pigs went, woo, it was crazy, and then they went on to the next person, right? Just like that. That's exactly how it happened. So those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and the country. And so, you know, everybody's going out to see what it was that had happened. Then they came to Jesus. And they saw, getting to my favorite part, they saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion, the thousands of demons in him. And what did they see? They saw a man sitting. Well, before he'd been running around all crazy. They saw a man clothed. Before he had been butt naked, right? And they saw a man in his right mind. Where was he sitting? He was sitting with Jesus. Doesn't say that exactly, but you know he was. He was sitting with Jesus. They saw him sitting and clothed and in his right mind. And now notice this. And they were afraid. What? That really surprises me, because I would think that they would have been more afraid if the dude was naked, running around, cutting himself, and screaming at everybody. But they are afraid, and he's sitting, and he's clothed in his right mind. Why are they afraid? Is Jesus making threats? Right? What's going on here? Why are they afraid? Somebody help me. Anybody? Why do you think they're afraid? Whew, did you hear that? They saw this dude was changed, and they didn't want to be changed. That's why they were afraid. They looked at what Jesus did in this dude's life, and they said, well, he was crazy. We all could attest to that. This was an evil man. But they thought they were great. They didn't see they didn't see a need to change. And furthermore, they didn't want this man coming from somewhere far away, heaven, coming into their life and their pigs and their industry and their world and changing anything. Because they liked the way they were living. They loved the dark. And they didn't want anything to change. And now here, is really why the demons begged for Jesus to send them into the swine. They wanted to go into the swine because they wanted to drown the pigs, and they wanted to create a situation where now the people from that town had lost big money because of Jesus. And what that creates is a problem. They come out and they see what he's done. It's not necessarily that it was wrong for them to raise pigs. They were Gentiles. They had, they could raise whatever they wanted. But now they come out. Do you think they're looking at the man saying, "What a miracle! This is amazing! This is Steve Johnson. This is Steve Johnson's dad," right? Whoever that guy is. This is amazing. No, what did they come out and say? This has cost us so much. Are you kidding me? What you did caused us to lose all our pigs. You know what's crazy, guys? I know $200,000 is $200,000. Trust me, I know what $200,000 is, right? It'd be nice to have $200,000. Any of you have $200,000 you'd like to give me? Okay, I know you don't. So, but here's the thing. If somebody in here later in life, your heart started to fail and you had to get heart surgery, guess how much heart surgery costs? More than $200,000. In fact, a total heart replacement's about $2 million. And that happens every day. They do those all the time. Because why? Because people's lives are more important than money. But Satan, and these demons, they created a situation where to accept Jesus, they had to say, you know what? This crazy fool that is now sitting in his right mind, clothed, and, he's totally changed, that's worth it. And you know what? We're willing to endure the cost because a human being is worth more than all them pigs. And that's why the demons went into the pigs. They created a situation. The people came, and Satan knew. He you know what's sad? We read this story, and we think, man, Satan was really messing with that, crazy guy. Who else is he messing with? Everybody else that came. Everybody else there got to encounter Jesus. Everybody else got to see what God did that day. And you know what? They were not changed at all. Because to them, that dude was not worth it. You might not think that you're worth it for God to come all the way from heaven to earth to help you. Let me tell you, to him you are. Other people might tell you you're not worth it, that you're worthless, not worth much of anything. You're like, oh, I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't do that, and I always fail at this. And let me tell you something. What Jesus did for this man, he'll do for every single person in this room. He'll cross much greater distances, go through much greater storms, just to come to you that you could be put in your right mind. These people, picking up verse 16, they were afraid, and those who saw it, they saw what had happened. They told him how it had happened to him who had been demon-possessed and about the swine. I like also it's throwing it around a couple times, but he had been. He had been demon-possessed. Was he still? I don't know, this might be crazy. Some of the kids that go to our church know this, but I got saved in a mental hospital. I was a crazy person, right? When I was in my young 20s, God showed up to me, and he spoke through the Bible, and I knew he was talking to me, and I asked him, what do you want me to do? And he said, come to Maine, right? And I came to Maine and went back to a Christian program that I needed to be at. And for a while, I lived there and grew in my relationship with God. I was a crazy person. And God came to me, and he helped me. But I'm not that person anymore. This guy used to be demon-possessed. And then, verse 17, you'll see the reaction of all the people that came out, and they saw this great thing that God had done. Then they began to plead with him to depart from their region. They were afraid. They didn't want their lives to change. They didn't want to lose anything else. This guy was not worth it. They began to plead with him to depart from their region. So we're almost done. Finish up here. Verse 18. And when he got into the boat, okay, just saying, did the disciples ever get out? We never see them out of the boat. I'm just saying. When he got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed, he came to the edge of the boat and he begged him that he might be with him. I see that you have 12 disciples. You probably like the number 12 because whatever. But would you consider having a baker's dozen, right? Let it be 13. Let me follow you. I'll follow you anywhere. I know what you did for me. Let me be number 13. He begged him. But notice this. What does 19 say? However, Jesus did not permit him. But he said to him, what did he say? Read it. I want you to read it, please. Let's read it together. You heard it. He told him to go home. Hey, guys. Take what you learned tonight and go home. And live a different way in your own house, with your own family, in your own school, with your own friends. You have a chance to hear God's word tonight. And God is probably not telling any of you right this second, go to Argentina, right? Go to Buenos Aires, He's not telling you that. He's saying, go home and tell your mom, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have talked to you that way. Go home and tell your dad, I want to go to church tomorrow. We haven't gone to church as a family in a while. Can we all go together? Go home and do something there. Because if you won't do the little things, you'll never do the big things. If you don't trust God in the little things, you'll never trust him with anything big. Go home and live a different way right where you already live. Now, this is amazing. He says, go home to your friends. Go to all the people that used to know you. And we get a sense of just the tragedy of this guy's life. He had friends. He had people. He had a home. He hadn't been there in so long. Go home. Go home to your friends and tell them what? Great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you. Now, I want you to know something. You can't tell people the great things that God has done if you don't see them yourself. Does that make sense? This guy is not an anomaly. He's not the one crazy dude that doesn't wear clothes and nobody else in the whole universe has ever been like him. No, this guy is an example of every one of us. And God has crossed from heaven to earth into our lives to restore us to what he made us to be. We got off track and it was our fault. But he showed up out of nowhere with the power to heal us and transform us and put us back into our right mind. And he says, now go home. Go into the life that you already have. And tell people about the great things that I've done for you. It's not that God hasn't done great things. It's that so many of us just struggle to see them at all. We just miss them. And then we feel like we don't have anything to tell anybody. Let me tell you something. If you look more closely at who God is, and what the Bible says he's done for you, you will have something to actually tell other people. When you go home, they'll see it in your behavior. They'll see it in your speech. They'll see it in the way that you care about people and pray for people. They'll see it in your understanding and your wisdom. You'll have something to share with your friends. When people are going through something, you know who they'll come and talk to? They'll come to you. Because they know you spend time with Jesus. And they know if they come to you, you'll tell them something that's important and true and helpful. He says, go home to your friends. Tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you. You know, if God really wanted to, he could have just said, you know what? Sorry, I'll say this strongly. Are we all able to take? Yeah, I think I said. Jesus might say, hey, you screwed up your life. You suffer the consequences. Would he be fair in saying that? Yeah, he would. You messed it up. You pay the price. But what God is offering each one of us is something that's beyond fair. It's better than we deserve. And this dude knew that God had been better to him than he deserved. And so, verse 20, even though Jesus wouldn't let him be the 13th disciple, man, he went home, just like Jesus said. He departed, and he began to proclaim in all 10 cities, the Decapolis, all that Jesus had done for him. And you know what? Everybody marveled. They were amazed. They were amazed. Years ago, I went to a conference, and what's so funny? Oh my gosh. You. I get laughing attacks. That happens in youth groups sometimes. Andrew knows about those. I went to a conference a few years back. It was in the area that I kind of grew up in, which is the Philadelphia area. And I went to this conference, and there were tons of people there. I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. So I'm like walking. I walked into the cafeteria. You know, we were there a couple days. And this guy said, oh, Sam Evans? And I was like, who the heck is that? This kind of short, stocky guy. I was like, he's like, you don't remember me? I was like, no. He's like, we went to high school together. I was like, oh, crap. You know? And he's like, you got saved? And I was like, and I remembered his name. He was like, I'm Chris. I was like, yeah, Chris, I did. He's like, man, I remember you from high school. You were definitely not saved then. And he went on to say a few other things, like I had almost like forgotten. He's like, man, you had such a bad mouth. You had this. I was like, okay, let's just stop right there. I'm a new person. That's who I used to be, right? And that's true. All things have become new. Behold, check it out. Only God can do that. The world can tie you up. They can lock you in a room. They can put you in a padded place. They did it to me. They say, oh, here's some pills. Here's this. Here's that. We'll give you some worldly wisdom. There's only one. There's only one that can transform your heart and your mind. And that's Jesus. And he showed up on the shores of my life. And now I choose to sit at his feet. Now I choose to say, hey, I want to follow you. Where do you want me to go? He says, go home. You got a wife. You got 6 kids. You live in Lincoln now. You live in Lincoln now. Serve there. Work there. Teach a bunch of young people that laugh at you. Right now. I'm good with it. Go home. Go home. Take something you heard tonight and get alone with the one who left everything to get alone with you. Take something home. We're called to live different. We're not called to live perfect. As you stumble and you fall, stand up, keep going. God's so gracious. He'll keep helping you. That's what real love's all about. When you fail, you admit it, and you say, whoa, I got to grow a lot more, God. Help me. And he will. He's an amazing and a gracious God. I want to do something. Man, we got all kinds of time. I could teach for 2 more hours. Speak. No, we're not going to do that. A few things. Remind us, because I just forget about everything, but afterwards, we're going to have a fire and some s'mores and stuff. We're going to have cornholio. Cornhole. No, I'm just kidding. Cornhole, beanbag toss, that game. We can set that up inside, or we can do it outside, whatever. And we still have some food. You can munch on it, hang out. I know, listen up. I know that some of you, oh, the study's done. Okay, it's early. I was at an overnighter last night. Try to stick it out and stay, See who you can meet. See who you can talk to. See who you can be a blessing to. See who you can pray with. We're not done. We're going to sing a couple more worship songs. But before we do that, Jess, could you come up here? I'd asked my wife to share something very short.